All right. This is House Education on Tuesday, Feb 17. The committee is going to take some time now to get our thoughts together on a budget memo for the Appropriations Committee concerning some of the budget requests we've heard. So I think we probably should dive right in, talk about the big kahuna, which is the Agency of Education. Beth and Rob, to the extent you're able, want to just give us a reminder as to what we heard and
I start with AOE.
yeah.
So I struggled to go back and find the testimony because it wasn't on the day I was told it was on. The big upshot for AOE overall is that it's a 3.91% increase. There are some places that increased, and special education actually is an area that decreased in the budget. One of the increases, or part of it, is the 5 positions that were funded temporarily under the Act 73 legislation. They're requesting that those 5 become permanent, not temporary, was the big shift.
All right.
So what number is in line with the 3-ish% increase.
Okay. So probably it's kind of a standard budget increase. That probably the biggest thing here is this request to make the temporary positions permanent.
Yes.
Anybody want to weigh in on that? I guess I'm inclined to support it. We always talk about how we need to resource and make sure the AOE has the people that they need. At least one of the positions is towards school construction assistants, which we're woefully neglectful on. Any other thoughts?
No, I agree. We do a lot of talking about how they're not staffed appropriately, and in order to be staffed appropriately, they need the funding to do it.
Agree. Do we know what the other positions becoming permanent are?
Say it again.
We know what the school construction, but what the other positions are that would become permanent?
You mean exactly what those 5 would be doing? I don't have that in front of
It
me.
was in the
It's
presentation.
in the presentation. I could go back and find that some, but I think it's a lot of it's involved in their overall restructuring and use of staff.
Right.
I think it was in the finance department.
Yep.
As sort of an inward facing position, or it wasn't like out in the field kind of position, but still there to serve.
I was caught off guard when when they talked about consultants working on truancy. So
I think that wasn't a consultant they already had doing something else, an extended role. I'd have to look. Let me see if I can find that presentation. I think I remember what day it was on now. There it is. Take me a minute to find it. And I never got a clear answer on the dues to the compact.
Okay.
Never actually got an.
I did get informal confirmation.
Informally, I knew we were told that, so.
I kind of interrupted what you were saying after you talked about the 5 positions. So.
Let's see. They were limited service. Say where they ended up. They restructured some of the appropriations, combined the finance and administration with the ed services appropriation into a single appropriation, which is the majority of their personnel costs.
That was just kind of a.
That's just a restructuring of the budget. Yeah, the change was mostly personal services, 600,000 increase, operating expenses, 500,000 increase.
I mean, the positions were approved previous year or last year.
As a limited service.
as limited service. So the positions themselves, we had approved. Now, yeah, Emily, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's something that Representative Cummings just said that I want to follow up on, but I am in the general agreement and consensus that for years we've been trying to fully staff the AOE. And so this is not a reflection, my next comments are not a reflection of anything but that I want to make sure we do that. But special ed, seeing a reduction. You didn't say how much, but you did mention.
Yeah, I could find it.
Special
I have it.
increased. And we already know, we heard testimony last week that not only are the top, well, I'm not sure where I heard the full, I think it was the BCSEA said that the top 3 positions are vacant.
Currently vacant.
And that it, and I can't remember who said that they were, that the position had, the special ed director position was raised again to a cabinet level position, meaning maybe more. Yeah, for a position like that, because if you see chronic vacancies, you have to address that in some way. So that is a flag for me a little bit. And the other thing I just want to say, and it's related to the constant feedback we get and have for many years. This is not reflective of the leadership there today, but it's been a constant that if we are continuing to agree to a 4% or nearly 4% increase, that seems standard and we're okay with that. I want to make sure, and I'm not suggesting a path yet, but making sure that we are being very thoughtful in our follow-up and getting feedback on how that money is being utilized, because Representative Brady just brought up one example, but I know over the last few years, however number of years, we've been using consultants. If we're heading in a shift in a different direction, I support that and highly support that, frankly, but I also feel strongly about accountability. And so, and just putting that out there for just as food for thought and for the future, I think it's really important.
I'll say, I think I misspoke. It's actually a decrease in special funds. I think I said special education.
Oh, you did say
It's special funds.
that's-
Sorry, that's very different.
That's
It's a
actually
17
good to hear.
It's a 17.4 million decrease in special funds because Medicaid LEA grants are shifting to AHS. So it's Medicaid, but it's special funds and it's a shift in where it's coming from. So
Yeah, would you read what's written there about that?
a $17.4 million decrease in special funds as the Medicaid LEA grants shift to AHS.
Okay, so this is part of a sort of an effort and agreement by the 2 agencies
Yes.
to move this work to AHS,
Yes.
they being probably better equipped to deal with Medicaid billing.
So it's a shift away. It's not that they just cut it. It's being shifted
Right,
to
but it's out of the AOE budget. It's now in the
AHS budget.
AHS budget. Okay. All right. In this budget memo, I'm going to just say that the committee is generally supportive of the AOE budget and the conversion of limited service positions, the 5 limited service positions, to permanent. I'm just going to say that we will perhaps request more information on the use of consultants moving forward, something along those lines. Does that seem okay with folks?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting a change, first of all, but I'm just curious. It seems like there's been a lot of talk about like what things should we shift from the ed budget that are ed related. And that obviously requires like a whole session to figure out where that would come from. But like, what is the process for actually responding to those kinds of discussions and changes?
I would say that probably a standard legislative process, so that if you were to say, like, I would like to see early college, 2 other things that are in the ed fund moved out of the healthcare
Yeah.
and moved into the general fund, a bill. Yeah.
It's a bill.
Okay.
All right, Beth, what we got next?
Do you want to knock off some of the bigger ones like UVM and the Vermont State Colleges?
Yes.
I just got the VSAC numbers that I couldn't find this weekend, like 20 minutes ago. So that's why they're not in here, but I do now have them. Yes.
Let's do higher ed.
So who would you like to start with?
Let's do UVM.
UVM, so their base budget is a 3% inflationary increase to base funding, which is in line with the governor's ask. The two additional things, though, are the $1 million each year for 5 years for the Vermont Cancer Center that I believe they ask for every year, and I don't believe we've yet given it, but that's in there. And then there's the $15 million for the multi-purpose center, but that money would be coming from the higher ed trust fund, not from tax dollars or general fund dollars. So it comes specifically out of that higher ed trust fund.
What do they call the
For the
facility?
multi-purpose center. That is, I believe, also that one I believe is in the governor's budget, that coming out of the higher ed. The $1 million each year for 5 years for the Vermont Cancer Center is no.
So I'm going to weigh, if it's okay with everybody, I will repeat what I did last year when it came to cancer, so that's a better call for the healthcare committee than for our committee to weigh in on. The multi-purpose center coming out of the higher education trust fund. I would look for input. I am personally opposed to that. That's not what the higher education trust fund is supposed to be used for.
Let's go back. So the communities there.
It's supposed to be a scholarship.
It is quite, it would require a complete change in the law about it. And, you know, I'd say I'm not 100% opposed to changing the law of how it's used, so long as it continues. Well, if it were bringing a lot of money that we could then say, well, here's a source of funding for school construction, great. I don't think that's ever going to happen because of the mechanics of how it works. But otherwise, it seems like it should be used for the benefit of what it's there for, scholarships towards higher education.
I had a question. Was there any proposed legislative language that accompanied that? You know, if there's.
No.
No.
Yeah, but it would be
Well,
necessary to
there are-
actually make that happen.
There are some other things about endowment funds. It's not just scholarships. There is some options for them to have endowment funds out of the higher ed trust fund. I don't know if this would even be a endowment fund unless you put it in the endowment fund and then you moved it.
Yeah, I guess I'm just
Money being
curious
fungible.
if we were inclined to grant that budget request, what are the legal mechanics to?
No, there was nothing I saw regarding that.
I have no doubt about the merit of the project and the value for the campus. But it feels particularly fraught for our committee that is just desperate to find any nickels for K-12 school construction to greenlight 15 million for our UVM athletic facility that we have not even come up with.
That may or may not.
1,000, let alone
use access to.
Right, yeah, it's
It's-
just,
Education.
looking at the side by side there, that feels like a pretty strange, would be a very mixed kind of policy.
Yeah.
Indication from us.
Well, and this will come up in our next discussion and our next topic, but, the legislature has made an incredible investment in our state college system. That sort of $5 million per year for 5 years for funding is now over. I think our state colleges are not out of the woods. I think they've made some incredible advances. But if we're going to be investing dollars, or if we're going to be making significant changes in the higher ed trust fund, I would be concerned about its impact on the state college system. And, in the next topic, we'll be talking about the Freedom and Unity Scholarship Program, which, if we're going to fund something out of the Higher Education Trust Fund that is outside the bounds of its current statutory limits, that's where I might make an argument. And as you say, the UVM multi-purpose facility has been on the books for a long time. There's no doubt that it's probably a facility that is needed, but to me, it's just not in keeping with the spirit of this fund.
I was just gonna say too, I've always struggled a little bit to sort of figure out how we weigh the ability of an institution to do sort of its own capital campaign. I mean, I think the president was really pretty clear that it's a huge fundraising lift for
Yes.
them, but I mean, there's no nonprofit campaign for school construction, you know, so I think that it's just really hard to know how to balance those things, I think.
Yeah.
The only other thing for UVM was the 3% inflationary increase to base funding, which is
Typically fine with that. All right. Let me do the state colleges next.
or
Rob, jump in anytime, Rob, if you need to.
Thanks, Peter. I am listening and I'm taking notes.
All right, great.
So again, with the state colleges, I don't have the number in there, but in the notes, the base funding again is a 3% inflationary increase to base funding, which I believe is in line with the governor's budget. Then there is some new stuff that isn't. So there's the $1.5 million one-time. Wish it was all on one page. I should have my desktop. And that is to fund the rural micro credential programs. So that's something new. And then there's another $3,894,000 for allied health programming. That's new. And then the capital projects, $6 million in capital projects, mostly on the Johnson campus. So those three items were not covered in the governor's budget. Those are all additional to the base funding.
All right, so I'll just say, I'll take the easy one first and say that
Base funding.
essentially the capital project work is something that falls within the institutions committee.
Yeah.
And there may or may not be money in there for what they're proposing. So I'm going to sort of
Refer to them.
defer to them on that. So 1.5 one time for the rural micro credential program. And then 3.9 basically for the allied health programming. You know, I think that it helps the appropriations committee if we are realistic. It's very nice to say we agree with everything. So I am tempted to simply say that we support the base funding increase.
Mhm.
Capital dollars would be deferred to institutions. And then for the other two worthy proposals, I think the best we can say is, you know, to the extent there's money available to help with these, great, but we understand that that's probably not possible. I mean, the word from the appropriations committee is there's about maybe $3 million to play with total, not necessarily, but for everything.
I would agree with that.
A little text string this morning, people asking how each committee handles their budget letter. Do they vote on it? Do they just do it by consensus? We've generally been a consensus group. So if you are not, you don't want to be part of the consensus, just say, I disagree or whatever. Everybody knows that. Are we at VSAC now?
I've got their, I haven't got it in the spreadsheet, but they are requesting $27,897,494.
Give me the number again.
20, almost 28 million. You just need to round it for their base funding, which is a 3% increase. So again, their base funding is in line with a 3% increase. Then they've got some additions to that. So some additions that they would like is the aspirations program. They want to use up to 400,000 of the base that they've already asked for to support innovation, career and college aspirations. They currently have the authority for 300,000 out of the base. So they'd like to increase that to use 400,000 of the base. They would like for dual enrollment early college stipend, $84,000, which is level funded to support low and moderate income
That's not part of the base.
I think so. They're talking about what's coming in, because that's a level
Okay.
funding.
All right, yeah.
Freedom and Unity Scholarship you mentioned, they want 2.3 million. So that's an $812,000 increase. So that's sort of the big.
Okay, would you give me those numbers
For
again?
the Freedom and Unity Scholarship, they want an additional $812,000 for a total of basically $2.3 million.
Do you have everything you're reading in an email or? in-
I do. It's an email I got from appropriations like 20 minutes ago,
Okay.
their presentation. So that's why it's not a spreadsheet. Yeah.
Are you talking about everything we're talking about in a spreadsheet?
I have the VSAT presentation from that they gave to appropriations was just forwarded to me. So I have so I can forward that to everybody.
As a reminder to everybody, that additional funding for Freedom and Unity would bring the household income at which you qualify for free tuition at the state universities, Vermont State University, to 85,000, I think.
That was 100.
It does not bring it to
No, 85. Okay. All right, so something else. Are you ready for the next one? The Vermont Nursing Forgivable Loan Incentive Program. They would like an increase of $2 million to that program, which would make a total of 5.5 million. And that would fully fund all the applicants. And the Vermont Mental Health Professional Forgivable Loan Program, they want $1.5 million to restart the program. They funding expired in the 25-26 year. So they want to restart that program, and that is $1.5 million. Finding the Freedom and Unity, I've got it right here. Boy, that type is small. Program currently allows families with 65,000 or less. It would raise it to 80.
80.
80.
Is that the full VSAC list of requests?
Let's see, I think it's just some more detail about each of the requests. There's not a new request that I'm seeing. Let's see, budget summary, they got the VSAC grants, which is in the base fund, the aspirations program, flexible pathways, same 7% administrative free, Freedom and Unity Scholarship. Yep, that's it.
Sending that to Matt now, just so I feel like I need.
Or, yeah, like I said, I just got it. I was
A lot of details.
It's a lot of detail that I couldn't find this week. I'm like, oh my gosh, where is all that? So let me
When you hear the flexible pathway stipends, that's to cover
It's just the map for
small expenses that some kids can't afford when they're doing dual enrollment or early college.
my keyboard is on. I could type.
All right, so the additional asks for VSAC then are upping Freedom and Unity to 812,000 by 812,000 in order to bring that to an 80,000 household income. Vermont Nursing Forgivable Loan Program, they want 2 million to fully fund the requests. And then 1.5 million for the Vermont Mental Health Forgivable Loan Program.
Just have to note that we don't have the teacher forgivable loan program in there, which
I noticed that myself.
ran out of money, and we have some folks who are midway through are now not going to be funded to the end of their, I mean, in addition to just.
And I know, like, before the session even started, we were getting a lot of requests for occupational therapist forgivable loan program.
I guess I'm wondering where the VSAC request for those two all extremely high needs occupations? Like why those or why?
Why did those?
Yeah.
During their testimony, what I recall is that essentially, yes, that these were considered critical careers for Vermont, and therefore they rose higher than the others. I mean, let's be very frank and clear about this. This money doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, we can weigh in. I think that what I would like to know, let's talk about the freedom and unity, 812,000. Here's how, if I were doing this in isolation without your input, how I would write it. I would say that, given our previous investments in Vermont State University, that moving up the number of Vermonters who would be eligible to attend tuition free would be a sign of further support as their bridge funding declines. So I would, again, if I'm doing this isolation, I would be supportive of this, obviously with the caveat that this is a big ask at a time when there's not much money available. But my level of support for it would probably be higher than the other requests, which are very high requests and may not reach as many people. Although to be fair, critical careers for the state. Life was really great when we had all this one-time money to put into these things. I miss those days.
Well, and also by funding something that helps Vermonters to get more financially stable. That also has long-term impacts for finding a better stable place for generations.
So I'm going to write it then, before I send it, everybody can take a look at it. I won't just send off in isolation, but I'll be supportive of that. The committee, I'll just say the committee was especially supportive of the increase in funding for the Freedom and Unity scholarships.
And I know they didn't specifically ask for it, so it's not an ask. But could we signal
Yes.
that if money were going to be used for forgivable, that it would go towards the teacher one? Or is that overstepping?
We can put whatever we want. I think
That's just me
I
personally.
think that I might put in that although there was not a specific request for it, this program existed, has not been fully funded. There are people with outstanding are paying the full benefit of it, and that it should be considered among the.
Right, totally understanding that
Yeah.
the ones in here are absolutely worthy
Yeah.
of it, but being the education committee, something that we. All right,
I'll work that out.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Others might not have the same opinion.
I mean, one of the benefits of the teacher loan was there was this sort of commitment to Vermont as part of your,
Right.
I assume there's a similar thing in the nursing program, but I don't know. There is.
Does that wrap up VSAC?
So the big ones
Okay.
wrapped up. Oh, another one I realized this morning I didn't put on the list is we do need to weigh in on the adult education piece, right?
Yep.
I'm like, oh, it's not on my spreadsheet. So.
I'm not sure anybody in the room here is paying attention to that.
No, no one is. So the ones at the top of the spreadsheet, I don't know if you care what order you go in.
Before we move on from VSAC, I'm going to add in a paragraph if nobody objects. But again, I'll go back to the committee to review. That does talk about if there are going to be, if tinkering is going to be done with the Higher Education Trust Fund, then the Freedom and Unity Scholarship Program should be part of that consideration.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, next.
I don't know which one you want to take first.
I figure that's a grab bag.
How about, Isn't Hunger Free Vermont the pass through anyway, the $182,000? It's what they got last year. It's what they asked for this year, and it's a pass through AOE as a,
It goes to AOE.
but that's why it came to our community, even though it's Hunger Free Vermont. And last year, I think we just said we supported them being the, I can't remember the
Yeah,
term,
so AOE is the sponsor.
sponsor. AOE continuing to be the sponsor for Hunger Free Vermont. It's not new money or
Right,
additional
it's-
money that they're asking for.
Yeah,
It's the same.
continue what already exists. I would, yeah, I think that they went through a bit of a process last year where it was sort of in the budget, out of the budget, ultimately back in. Like, I would love for us just to support it being in there this year.
So what's it called?
It's the child and adult, gosh, now I'm gonna get the acronym.
Yeah.
It's the food program for in-home early childhood
I
education.
have it down here. It's for the
Child
Yeah.
and adult.
CACFP is the sponsor. CACFP is the initials for it. They need a sponsor organization. And the AOE is who's selected. That's why it's in under our noses. We supported that last year, that being the CACFP sponsor.
Okay.
I could not find if they got any money last year, but we did just get a letter from the American Heart Association again this year. I didn't. Last year they'd asked for $100,000 to help schools with the cardiac response bill that was passed. This year they've asked for $150,000. And I don't know if they got the $100,000 last year. I didn't find that. What they ended up with last year. I think we passed it off to healthcare
Yeah,
correctly. And I don't know what ended up
we
happening.
don't really have much, we haven't had,
You know, it's just a letter we just received.
right,
Request, so I don't know how you deal with that one.
yeah, no, but I think we would need to do a lot more due diligence. That's one of those ones where I'd say to somebody, work on it on the Senate side, because we would need to understand what the status is of our cardiac response plan that we did pass
Right.
last year,
Right.
where the American Heart Association would play a role.
I'm going from the bottom to the top, actually. So anything else on the American Heart Association? I think you have what you need.
Next.
Okay, Farm to School they received $1 million. They've asked for $1 million, no increase at all. 500,000 is for the Farm to School early childhood. If I got that right? And 500,000 for LF5. Don't know what that is, but it's exactly what they asked for last year. 500,000 each program, no increase.
I'm actually gonna, I'm gonna do exactly what I did last year, which is defer to the other committee on that.
Okay, 2 left to go. The next, the Governor's Institute
Yep,
has asked for an increase. Last year was 384,000. This year they're asking for 423,000. It's a 10% increase. But they have been flat since 24. So they haven't had an increase since the FY24 budget. So that's why they're asking for 10% in FY27. 333.
yes. Anybody? I'm basically just gonna say that we're supportive of the program and recognize that they have not seen an increase since FY24.
Yeah.
If there's extra change in the couch cushions, we would support that.
Agree.
Great program that gets chronically underfunded.
The last one in my spreadsheet is Advance Vermont. And the other day and talked about that. So they had asked typically for around $384,000. They ended up receiving 100,000 last year. They had received or 340,000, whatever they'd asked for in the past, they'd received. But last year they received 100,000.
50, I think, last year.
I'll have to check my notes, but I thought it was 100. This year they're asking for 600,000.
Prior to the year before, it was 3.
300 and something, and then they got But the 600,000 is for two programs, not one. It's for the My Future Vermont, which is what had been funded before. And it's actually adding now in this Graduate with a Plan program. So that was their request. And then there's the adult ed piece I forgot to put in the spreadsheet. And that's all I have. So.
Thoughts on Advanced Vermont?
I think it's a great,
Yeah.
great organization. I just don't think they're gonna, appropriations is gonna find $600,000.
Well, it's gonna be hard to justify an increase from 150 to 600 when others aren't getting that. I'm gonna just, sort of say that we remain supportive of the work and the program itself.
I think we should.
I think, yeah.
I want to say something about wanting to get closer to the prior to last year levels of funding. Or, levels to at least maintain.
Yeah.
The start funding levels.
We might seeing that also funded out of other areas besides the Agency of Education.
Yeah.
It's much more of a labor.
Can say, yeah,
Yeah, it's a good increase.
All right, so that's good. So I think I discussed very briefly with everybody the adult education funding. This is probably just language that will go in the budget. I met with the chairs of Commerce and Appropriations on this. We had a recommendation from the Agency of Administration that said that the funding level total statewide isn't in dispute. It is how that money is allocated. And you had one side saying it should be based on numbers of students and the other saying it should be based on the number of classroom hours. I know I'm putting this rather crudely, but much of this was sort of argued about in the off-session work by the Agency of Administration. Really appreciate them being the ones to have done this. They came back and I think somebody described it as splitting the baby and just saying, we'll do, it should be 85% based on the number of students and 15% based on classroom hours. That remains sort of also argued over. I discussed it with Chair of Commerce, Chair of Appropriations, and what they're going to do is add language that essentially agrees to that for over 3 years, it will be diminished by 5 points. So it goes 85% classroom, 85, 90, well, whatever it takes to get up to,
Whatever.
so that ultimately
Well,
it's a glide path to basing everything on enrollment or ADM, whatever we want to call it, rather than classroom hours, but with a 3-year glide path, 5% per year, 15 percentage points that have to be. Beth has language. Like I said, I don't think it's a bill we have to pass. I think it's language that will go in the budget. Everybody, all right.
Did you get the follow-up communication from any KLS who wanted to weigh in on that?
Yes, I did get the, yes. All right, well, just to review,
unless I've forgotten something, that's
anybody else have anything that,
when I compared it to the people that came in last year, it was the same.
yeah.
Some of the ones that I thought were missing came in a little after that.
All right, so AOE, we're going to support the 5 positions going from limited service to permanent. We don't really have a comment on the rest of the budget since it comes in at the 3% increase. And of course, they talk about their budget being, $3 billion, but 2.7 of that's the actual ed fund.
Just noting that I don't think they were funded for a full.
That's right.
So I just want to make sure everybody recognizes that they will be now.
Yes, right. And they were unable to hire people for an 8-month position.
Right.
And that we will, I'll add something in there about encouraging both appropriations and us to continue to keep an eye on the use of consultants. UVM, support of the 3% increase in base funding. Cancer Center, Leap to Healthcare, kind of a no on the 15 million out of the higher ed trust fund for the multi-purpose use. State colleges, base funding is 3%. We'll defer the capital project, but then there was still another allied health programs and rural micro-credential programs. I think we can sort of be supportive, but understand that in these tight times, they're unlikely to be funded. VSAG, we have, again, a 3%. They want to make a change in the base for the aspirations program to use 400,000 rather than 300,000. I don't know if we have to weigh in on that, but I would, it's their budget, but we can. We can express support for the increase to freedom and unity and its purpose and all of that, but again, with the understanding that money's not available like it was. And the same for the others, and that if all of a sudden money miraculously appears for more forgivable loan programs, we'd also like the teacher forgivable loan program to be reconstituted, especially in light of some people sort of only getting funded halfway. And that if there's going to be major structural changes in the higher education trust fund, that we would request that consideration for freedom and unity also be taken into account. We are going to say that we want AOE to continue being the sponsor organization for the CACFP program. The farm to school will defer to agriculture and food. GIV, we will write in support of. Advance Vermont, we will support the program and at a minimum to encourage appropriations to return them to their prior funding levels.
Can I go back to GIV for a second?
Yep.
Did you have any notes about the fact that it's a 10% increase, that it's been flat since 24? And that's, okay.
That's right. Now we're dead. Yeah.
Going back to Advanced Vermont, you just said encourage to the prior funding levels, but we need to be specific about that because
About what it was.
various years over
Right.
prior
Let
funding.
me
was
see if
different.
I can
One was
find.
100, one was 150. I remember.
Then we had 384 at some point.
I find it,
I
I've got
just
it right
think-
here somewhere. What it was in the prior year. Let's see if I can find it. I could if this would work right for me. Well, I'll look for it while you're talking. Where's my search button?
Okay, so I'll work on this. I think it's due Thursday. I'll work on this. Hopefully Thursday we'll have a little bit of time to finalize it.
Thank you.
What's that?
It's thrown under the bus, but you're carrying it here.
Yeah, well, I don't mind sitting down and banging this out, and then I'll pass it by Beth and Rob to double check what I have.
Oh, I had it right here.
Hey, Peter,
Yeah, Rob,
sounds like you're already composing that in your head.
I am.
Okay.
I am, and I've got last year's on my computer, and we can follow the same format.
Okay.
Advanced from 350,000, but I may have just put it in a round number. In FY 25, they received 350,000. So in 26, they asked for 350,000. And they'd also asked that year that it go from one-time money to base. So
Never gotten the base.
no, and they asked for 350 and got 100, but the prior year it was 350. Do you want me to update the spreadsheet with some of those numbers and resubmit it, or we don't really need to bother at this point? The VSAC numbers and stuff.
Yeah, if you could update it and send it off to anybody who wants it, including me, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's good. to keep track of somebody. I think it's just the VSAC numbers I have now, but I can cut around that. Update. Might not happen tonight, but. So I much rather use my laptop than this. And I'm going home tomorrow, so.
All right, thank you all. Let's take